The courtroom air was cold, sterile, and smelled of polished wood and regret. My father sat across from me, his lawyer whispering in his ear. He didn't look at me, not once. He didn't have to. His presence was a verdict in itself. For 23 years, I had tried to earn a glance of approval from this man. I'd built my software company, Apex Logic, from a dusty garage fueled by ramen noodles and a desperate need to prove I wasn't the failure he always said I was. For 10 years, I bled for it, and it worked. We grew. We thrived. We became a name whispered in tech circles with a mix of respect and envy, and my father noticed. Finally, he didn't call to congratulate me, his lawyers did. The letter claimed I had used his seed capital and proprietary business concepts to launch my company. It was a lie, a grotesque fiction crafted on a foundation of pure greed. He demanded 80% ownership. Or else, the letter finished. I chose or else. I chose this courtroom. The judge, a weary-looking woman with sharp eyes, called the session to order. My father's lawyer, a slick man in a suit that cost more than my first car, stood first. He painted a picture of a generous father betrayed by a reckless, incompetent son. He spoke of my historical financial instability, my youthful failures, the thousands he'd lent me that were never repaid. Then it was my father's turn. He stood, straightening his tie, and finally looked at me. His eyes held no love, no pride, only a cold, calculating hunger. "Your Honor," he began, his voice dripping with a false paternal disappointment. "I love my son, I do, but love does not excuse theft. He is weak. He has always been weak. His business, this Apex Logic, it only exists because of my guidance, my money, my risk. He is a child playing at being a CEO. He will run it into the ground within a year. I am not trying to punish him. I am trying to save my life's work from his inevitable failure. I demand what is rightfully mine, all of it." His words didn't hurt. They were familiar. They were the soundtrack of my childhood. Weak, failure, incompetent. They were the reasons he'd refused to co-sign my student loans, the reason he'd laughed when I told him my startup idea. They were the hooks he'd planted in me long ago. But this time, they just landed on barren ground. I felt nothing. My lawyer, a brilliant and fierce woman named Eva, stood. "Your Honor, my client flatly denies these allegations. There was no seed capital. There were no proprietary concepts. There was only a father who offered nothing but criticism and now, seeing success, wants to steal it." The trial stretched for days. He produced fake bank statements. I produced my old, meticulously kept journals detailing every rejected request for a loan. He brought in a business partner who perjured himself on the stand. I brought in my first employee, my college roommate, who testified to eating cold pizza on the floor of that garage with me. The tension was a live wire. But through it all, I was calm. Eva would glance at me, concerned by my silence. She expected rage, tears, something. I just gave her a small, reassuring nod. The truth was, I wasn't calm. I was waiting. My revenge wasn't in an emotional outburst. It was in a file, a single, encrypted file my head of security had discovered buried deep in my father's own corporate server. The day of the final arguments arrived. My father's lawyer gave a grand, theatrical speech about a father's heartbreak. My father looked at the judge, oozing sincerity. Then Eva stood. "Your Honor, before you rule, we have one final piece of evidence to submit. We discovered it during the discovery process. It seems Mr. Evans here," she said, gesturing to my father, "is not the paragon of business ethics he claims to be." She approached the bench with a tablet. On the large screen in the courtroom, she displayed the file. It was a series of emails between my father and a competitor of mine, Nexus Tech. In them, he detailed my company's internal strategies, our upcoming product launches, our financial projections. He was selling my secrets. He was sabotaging me, even as he stood in court claiming he wanted to save my company. The price for his betrayal? A promised executive position at Nexus Tech and a 15% stake, once Apex Logic was weakened enough for a hostile takeover or bankrupted by his lawsuit. The courtroom was utterly silent. The color drained from my father's face. His lawyer stopped whispering and just stared, slack-jawed. The emails kept coming. One, sent the night before this trial began, read, "Don't worry, the boy is weak. He'll crack under pressure. The company will be mine by the end of the week, and then I'll hand you the keys." The judge didn't need to hear more. The cold, hard evidence of his perjury and malicious intent was scrolling right in front of her. She didn't even wait for a rebuttal. "Case dismissed," she said, her voice like a gavel of ice. "With prejudice, Mr. Evans," she said, turning her gaze to my father. I suggest you retain new counsel. You are facing serious charges beyond the scope of this civil matter. Perjury, industrial espionage, fraud. My father didn't look at me. He stared at the table, his hands trembling, his entire world, his reputation, his freedom, crumbling around him. The mighty had fallen, and he had held the axe himself. I stood up. I didn't say a word to him. I nodded to my lawyer and walked out of the courtroom. The sun outside was blinding. I took a deep breath, the first real breath I'd taken in weeks. He thought my silence in the courtroom was weakness. He thought my calm was surrender. He was wrong. Strength isn't about the loudest roar in the room. It's about having the patience to wait for the perfect moment to let the truth speak for itself. And sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply watching your enemy's own plan become the trap that seals their fate.